Welcome, everyone. My name is Tom Gallo. I'm the Chief Instructor at Tactics Martial Arts in Long Island, New York. With me today is my friend and training partner, Ed Froley. Say hi.
Hello, everyone.
Say hi, Ed.
Hi, Ed.
Thank you. We have with us, we have two amazing martial arts instructors, innovators in their arenas, in practical self-defense, and just they took what they know and just brought it beyond what everybody else has been doing. We're going to have a seminar with them in November 12th and 13th, and we're going to talk to them a little bit about their training, why they developed their programs, and what we're going to expect on those days.
We are talking, of course, about Evan Pantazi, who's president of QShow International and creator of the QShow Tactical Control Program, which is one of the focuses of our upcoming seminar. And also Grandmaster Bram, president of Common Sense Self-Defense Street Combat, or CSSD-SC. Bram is an award-winning knife designer. He's also one of the original students of Modern Arnis under Professor Remy Presas. And he's the inventor of the crimped tool, which we will discuss at some length today. So welcome to both of you gentlemen, and thank you for taking the time to be with us today. We really.
So let's start with Evan. Tell us a little about your background in martial arts, your training, what got you interested in QShow, because I know that wasn't your first love, but it is your only love now. What compelled you to design the KTCP program? Maybe tell us who's using it, if you're allowed to, where it's being used, and why it's so effective.
All right.
A lot of questions. Go.
That's all right. I started in judo a long time ago and progressed through many different arts because I was a professional martial artist since basically the beginning. I decided to go out and look for other martial arts as well. So I didn't just stick with one art. I was always training many different arts. Now, what happened with the KTCP and the QShow? Now, the QShow came before the KTCP. I studied the QShow because I wanted to always find a more efficient way of doing what I needed to do. And with that, I had some good friends that were police officers, and they were interested in what I was doing because it hurt. Okay, and they decided that it was going to inflict the pain, but we never damaged each other. And they got the physical dysfunction, which was even more important to them. And the difference is you don't always want to hurt someone, but you do need to control them. So when we work with the QShow, the real QShow, this is not pressure point based. It's working on tendons, nerves, blood vessels, etc. For the KTCP program, we streamlined the study into more neurological effects, so it wouldn't affect the person's blood systems, their organs, or anything of that nature. It was just a trimmed down thing to work with the body's reflexes, which nobody can control. It's the autonomic nervous system that we're trying to operate with, and getting a dysfunction where their bodies either totally relax or tighten in certain situations to get them under control more readily. And this was all programmed into maneuvers that an officer would use on the street legally, okay, ethically, and also that worked for people that were either drunk or on drugs or just resistant to arrest. So when I started studying that, I released it here. It was taken up by a New York police officer, and he took it and started training other police officers in New York City. Then it spread to Arizona. And then I was doing most of my work overseas. So we have a lot of overseas police jurisdictions using this for their training program as well as their day-to-day work. So that's it in a nutshell.
So the program is leveled, I believe.
Yes, there are 4 steps in the program. We start with the basic one that we'll be working the coming weekend of the 12th and the 13th in November. And it's, first of all, familiarity with the targets. Now, by targets, let's take the elbow as an example. When you're doing a restraint or trying to get a person under control to get them cuffed or on the floor or off the person, you're going to be grabbing onto their arm that's either assailing the person or just to get their arm to get them under control. And as you do that, we will target a specific tendon in the arm or a muscle group. And let me explain quickly. A tendon has a reflex action in it that if you rub it a correct way with a rapid penetrating kind of a rub, then what's going to happen is it causes all the muscles in the body to relax. So their legs give out, it doesn't support their body weight, so they're halfway to the ground all by themselves, okay, just with their body weight. They're totally surprised because they probably weren't figuring their legs were going to give out on them. There's no real pain to it, and it just puts them down and it makes their arms fill out, so it's easier to grasp on for the cuffing program or whatever you need to do. There's another thing called the muscle spindle cell near the elbow, that if the person has their elbow bent at more than a 90-degree angle, for example, that tendon is so stretched you can't cause that reflex reaction. So by tapping onto the muscle in the back and doing it with a stretching type of an action, you activate something called the muscle spindle cell. That causes a reflexive action to tighten all the muscles. When the person's muscles tighten, they go into more of a fetal position, okay? And that causes them to collapse because they lose balance. So those are the two ideas in a single target that we'd be working with. And there's 12 basic targets in this first course.
Ed, you want to ask Evan a question about it?
So in the course of getting this out to law enforcement or security people or bouncers or whoever might be interested in this, if someone's coming to the seminar for the weekend, can they kind of be confident that by the time they're done with what you have to offer, that if I'm going on the beat the following day or I'm working the door at the nightclub the following night, that I'm able to apply this? Or is this something that is going to take me a long time to really be able to put to use?
No, it'll be very quick. They'll walk out the door with the experience, provided they remember the method that they were using in the course. Let me interject one thing here.
Yes, sir.
We have another officer that we were training early on in the program, and he's become the trainer for his jurisdiction. And he was working in maximum security. He was in Austria. I'm not going to give out the name. And all of the prisoners that he was in control of respected him because he would get in there, break up a fight. He had put people down where he needed to under control, and he caused no physical damage. And they respected him for that because the other officers would go in, they'd have their batons or their shields or whatever they had to go in the cells with, and there were damaging occurrences, okay? And they respected him, and they listened to him quite well because he didn't damage them, and they respected that fact because they got the compliance without that damage.
It's important.
Pretty much like Crimp works. You've got that control, but you're not out to break the person.
Yeah, these two, we'll talk about that too, how they work very well. They're very similar, and they're very well together, which is why we're here.
So Bram, let's start with some similar questions for you. You trained for a long time as one of Professor Remy Presas's first generation students, but you approached his modern Ornice system from a different perspective. While most of the other students were focusing on the stick aspects of the art, you really zeroed in on and concentrated on the blade. How did that come about for you?
Well, I was with Remy for 21 years, and everyone knows him as the man with sticks. That's how Black Belt used to describe him. And Remy taught us stick, and on the side, he knew I talked about knives. He was making training knives, talked about armor. And Remy said, well, my family, he always used to say, his family taught bolo to the guerrillas, to the 1st and 2nd Bolo Battalion. So he started telling me about it, and everything. Most of the guys should do stick, and you And I and Tom have talked. Remy would go, "This is, oh, this is cut." The people like Dan Anderson, who are stunning stick person and fighters, but thought he meant the cutting motion through the air of the stick. It isn't what he meant. He meant he was actually cutting. When I approached him over time, he looked at me and said, "This is what we did." And I said, "Well, that's what I want to learn." Because he'd had little quips like, "You got to know where the sharp is. You have to respect the sharp edge. If I can touch you, you're cut already. If he starts to move, oh, you cut this." He reaches and, "Oh, you will cut this. You will try. Oh, you will." Everything was cut. So when I saw that, I asked him, and he said, "This is what my family did. How hard it is, how simple it is, there's a finality to it, that the blade," and most of us in FMA know the blade is the soul of the art. And I think he was testing me. That's where I always look at that. He went, "You shouldn't do this." And he goes, "But my family did it." And I finally looked at him and said, "Okay, I pick what your family did. I don't care if it's the hard thing or whatever. I like that." In FMA, they do lots of pocket stick, dulu dulo. They use a caribou horn. And as I was playing, I was still thinking of things I could do with a knife. I did them knife, close, whatever. And that was the start of, can I make a better pocket stick?
Very
And
cool.
I'm like Evan. It's the first time I really got to hear Evan. I can hear my ideas and my general concept. I see why you guys said coming out of Evan as he's talking about less than lethal and shut them down. Because the one thing I also got is coming from an artist family and being a PA in surgery under Dr. Rankin, I believe in anatomical shutdown, biomechanical shutdown. And so even when I use that bladed thing, I'm not big on head, neck, torso, or genitalia, and I became real big about, if you shut someone down, that's it. You don't have to kill them. Some of the old sword manuals, you see the hand up and the stump is there, and they've actually drawn a picture of the hand coming off. And I went, "Oh, that's right. No hands, nothing works." That whole idea of no hands are just what Evan was saying. If you can shut a muscle group down, if you can make that hand not work, you already win, because the only thing in real that can hurt you are the guy's hands. And that became a whole central thing for me of, how do I shut your hands down? Well, all my tools had some kind of what I would call my Bram on them, or something to reach out and touch. And that's when I started working on the crimps, the better dulo, non-lethal. Let me beat the snot out of you and let me control you, because I'm like Evan. I would rather control someone. I don't want my officers getting in trouble. I don't want us getting in trouble. And so I like to work off what I call biomechanical motion for ourselves, gross motor skill. Because no matter what anyone says, all the fancy stuff you do doesn't work as your brain is shutting down. And I started having tunnel vision, and I myself can't do fine motor skill. I'm down to a gross motor skill. So as you know, I work at a gross motor skill level. And people go, "You could probably do more." I said, "Maybe." And that's when I came up with, I like to hammer. Anybody can hammer. Hammering is a growth skill, and no martial artist, a tough guy, will admit it. The get away principle. Well, get away, the whip thing, that's hammering. Lots of animals hammer. So all my exposure to martial arts, and obviously Wing Chun, all my years of Wing Chun before I met Remy, I'm beginning to understand everything to me is Wing Chun Arnis. It doesn't matter where I learned it, and it all becomes, CSSD.
So I guess one last question then would be similar to what we asked Evan. It's easy to come up with a program that works in theory, but you've actually been able to teach particularly the crimp. I mean, you've taught a lot of specified systems to different jurisdictions, but because we're concerned about the crimp in this upcoming seminar, you have also taught the crimp to different law enforcement jurisdictions and government agencies, not only in the US, but overseas.
Yes.
Without revealing anything too confidential, is it still currently being used? And what kind of success rate can an average law enforcement department expect?
Yeah, it's SOP in several departments and jurisdictions. And when I first came up with a tool to be used close, and I brought it to the CERT people, the Corrections Institute, and they all looked at me like I was a nut. And I went, no, this little tool gives you the ability to control and shut people down. Because I want a better tool for the officers. I want everything. So And as you guys know, I didn't generally teach the public. I ended up teaching different departments. And in lots of places, like in the Philippines, for example, Congress declared there that they needed a human rights based, and they don't think of human rights like we do, human rights based methodology to deal with criminals and a tool. So officially, except for funding, the CRMiPT is the official tool of the Philippine National Police. Use it. Departments in other places have found that they don't have to kill anyone. In some of the places we think are too authoritarian or dictatorships, people go, what do you teach them? I said, I'm teaching them to be the kinder, gentler police within their group. But overseas, this is small enough that every officer can carry it with them. A lot of my EP guys through the different agencies and like PSD through the military, they carry this on duty because it can carry anywhere. Places where they're not allowed knives, they're not allowed firearms. This is not a knife. A knife has to have an edge cut. It's obviously not a firearm. So it came up with a tool that also limits the liability of the departments because nobody can get cut. There's no accidental, ooh, I cut his fingers off. The guys start jerking around, I accidentally poked him. So the tool is designed to fit within the rules with a shade of gray for lots of different countries and departments.
Very good. All right. So my next question is actually for Tom. So Tom, you've actually known both of these gentlemen for a very long time and have trained pretty extensively in both of the systems. In fact, for anyone who might be watching this video that doesn't know, I'm going to mention here that in addition to running your own FMA school, you also hold a pretty high rank in QShow International as an instructor. And you have the only location in New York that's certified by Evans to teach his QShow system. And you're also one of only 2 people in the Northeast that are certified by Bram to teach the CRMiPT tool. So based on all of this experience, what way do you think the 2 systems complement or enhance each other?
Wow, that's a deep question.
I know.
Well, everything I do has QShow in it. Anytime I touch someone, punch them, grab them, there's always QShow underneath my hands. And when we started doing the CRMiPT with Bram, as we're doing our techniques and grabbing and hooking, the tool just went right to the QShow points. And it was just natural. They both fit in. You have one end, you have the empty hand, and the other end, you have the tool. So some reason you don't get the tool out, you have your empty hand. You get the tool out, you got the techniques with the QShow under it. They just blended so well together. As you probably have felt.
Yes,
and
thank you very much.
And Bram always yells at us. Don't kill each other. It's hard not to. I'll have him in a position, and I look down, I'm like, there's a nerve there.
Yeah.
I might as well hit it. Boom. And we've taken it outside of the techniques. We've expanded on the techniques, right? The techniques are basically entries, and then Bram lets us play, expand on it. And when we get into those positions, it's just QShow everywhere. You just can't get away with it, away from it, And then doing the KTCP, this fits in every target, the 12 targets in the first level, fits in perfectly. We've used it on the nerve over the hip. This with the pressure on it, and empty hand will do the palm or the forearm. So everywhere those 12 targets are, this fit in perfectly.
Yeah.
So it was just natural for them to meld together. You're familiar with QShow apparently, and studying the KTCP, and you're the other only QShow CRMiPT certified instructor in the area, the Northeast. So how did you find them together?
Well, I guess the thing that I would add to what everybody else has already said, well, probably two things. We had the experience. This is kind of the thing that germinated this idea to get Evan and Bram together in the same place at the same time was that we went down to Philadelphia in June for the Q Show International Summit. And while we were there, Evan gave us some time to demonstrate the CRMiPT. And while we were doing that demonstration to introduce the CRMiPT to Q Show people, it was all Q Show targets. And then the following month, we were out in Washington with Bram at the instructors weekend, and he asked us to demonstrate CRMiPT techniques because we're CRMiPT instructors. And everything that came out of us was, here's Bram's entry, and here are the targets, and it's all nerve strikes. So to me, it was two halves of the same thing. And I think part of what you said, you have it, if you have the Q Show in your hands and you know where the nerves are, and then you put a CRMiPT in your hand, it amplifies the effect. But the other thing I liked about it is also in reverse. If for some reason I didn't have my CRMiPT in my hand, right? If I lost it for some reason, I'm not defenseless. I can still use the Q Show to get the job done. And the thing that I'm really attracted to, and I don't know if this is just because I'm getting older, I'm in my 60s now, so maybe I'm getting a little more practical, or I don't think I'm any wiser, but I think the main thing that both of these methods share is an ethical approach to self-defense. And that really resonates with me. A lot of the self-defense you see being taught these days, whether it's in seminars or YouTube or wherever else, it's really about hurting people. It's unnecessarily violent. And it's not that the techniques aren't good, they work, but they seem more suited to a battlefield than a neighborhood. And so you can teach people how to do those things, but if you're teaching them how to maim somebody, you're teaching them how to go to jail. And I have a long background in traditional martial arts, mostly Japanese, and the underlying premise has always been do no more harm than necessary. And I think I think the thing that really resonated for me when I met Evan and when I met Bram was they were saying the same thing. You can do this without sending someone, to the hospital or being permanently damaged or disfigured. You can do this in a way that's civilized and humane. And that's the thing that really resonates for me.
Yeah, I don't know. Can I interrupt for a second?
Sure.
Okay?
Of course.
And everything, because like I said, this is the first time I really got to hear Evan speak. I've heard you guys speak of him, and as soon as he started talking, I bonded right to, as I said, what he was saying. It's like, oh my God, I can hear my own feelings and emotion content come out. And why I felt so much with the two of you, because you understand, I don't think we have the right to maim or harm someone. Over time, since I'm called the wimp of the knife world, I agree with all three of you. I like to know that I put myself in control, and I like the idea. And my mom used to say, oh, you brought ethics back into martial arts again, because they seem to have been lost. And the CRMiPT, as you know, is my favorite tool. And to be with someone like Evan and to learn of Evan through you guys, because I really believe in reach out and touch someone, you've sort of completed like a circle for me that I can, and that's why it's been easy to work with you guys, that everything's Evan's taught you in your relationship to martial arts, that we can put someone down, we can stop them from harming themselves and harming others. Because I think, as Ed was saying, that's part of the point. And the older I get, it's like I have this bigger conscience going, I need to contribute back to the martial arts, that I didn't contribute to the death toll and the damage part, but I contributed to the part where we bring humanity back into it, that we protect people from themselves and others.
Yeah, Bram, when I saw the tool, I thought to myself that was a brilliant idea, because anybody that makes a tool basically is making it for the destructive purpose, not the controlling purpose. And right. It's so needed nowadays, because everybody is at their wit's end with the situation in the last couple of years, etc. Nobody knows which way to turn, which way they're thinking straight. So they go off every once in a while. And so to take one of those type of people and cause damage on them when they're just suffering just as much as the rest of the people out there, it is really inhumane. But your tool looked great because it has a good feel to it. Okay, I held it in my hand. Didn't get to work with it too long, but the working with it, I could see how Ed and Tom are really working with it with the anatomical and the physiological functions of the body. It just makes. And even for the people that have never taken a martial art before, that tool in your hand gives you a sense of security that helps you bridge that gap that you're going to need to handle the situation correctly. First off, okay. Then they have the practicality of using it, where they might have a frail hand or knuckles or arthritis or whatever the case may be. They can't make a fist. They can't grab a person firmly. They've got the tool to leverage that that response that's needed. So thank you for bringing that to the world.
I just wanted something that would enhance exactly what you do. What Kyushu and the Crimped go together like this. They're not out here and we're trying to force them together. They're basically designed to amplify each other and fit on each other's attributes. So I look forward to the weekend to be with you. I think because I love feeding off what someone else is doing. I'm like, I know we're going to have a great time showing people going, look, if your hands can do it, the tool can do it. And if the tool can do it, your hands can do it, because it's not rocket science.
Right. It's just common sense.
Yeah.
So the weekend coming up, anything, I know there's some pre-registration, they get some free stuff. You're going to get a level 1 KTCP book if they pre-register, 15% off of crimps if they there's the book. It's an awesome book, very detailed.
Here too is there's can't find the page now, but the New York officer that had over 5,000 arrests, and a lot of them he attributes to coming out alive by using the Q show. So it's good. It's the whole first program, very easy. It's got big pictures and everything, so it shows you right where the diagrams are, and it'll show you some scenarios to use. Not that they would be your total scenario, but it points out the different areas and what you need to do to accomplish your arrest.
It also has, I believe it also has the detail of the nerves and the muscles in there.
Yeah, there's some of that as well. Yep.
Yeah. And then, like I said, the crimped, you're going to get 15%. Also, just a side note, you don't have to worry about, I'll find it, 2 days of getting hit with this. We have the compressors, which are such a godsend. These weren't developed when Ed and I started training, and we're like, we got to do something. This is crazy. Contacted John at Tack Knife, and we pushed him. I know Bram had talked to him prior to putting one of these together. We're like, no, you got to do this, and he did it. So you will be using these sometimes, not all the time, because you got to feel this to understand. Just like you have to feel the Q show hit to understand.
So anyone who's going to watch this video, and maybe they've heard a little bit about Q show, or maybe they've heard a little bit about crimped, but they're not really sure what to expect. They're considering of coming, but they may be a little hesitant. What can they expect? I mean, if someone's thinking about it but not sure, what would we say to them to say, this is what you can expect. This is why it's worth it.
Well, as obviously Evan's going to be able to say about reaching out and touching that it's naturally there. I just look at people and go, look, as I've always told you, it's not rocket science, and it works under duress. I designed it to work under duress. So when you're pressured, again, because the main key is I'm going to hammer with it. Anybody coming in, when I show them they're using their natural response pattern to what's coming in, they're not going to forget it.
Yeah, what they're going to get from working with the nerves of the body is they're going to gain efficiency, and it's going to ingrain in them quickly because it brings about humor. When you see a body collapse or your body collapses uncontrollably without pain, it's actually kind of funny. All right, so that is a reinforcement, and you just have a good time doing it. Well, that's the efficiency that it gives you, and the confidence that it builds up into you. It's just joyous. It's like, it's cool. It makes you feel great. So you have that to take home with you. It'll stick with you a long time.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm just amazed overall at how well the two were going to integrate. Because we developed them separately of each other, and they integrate perfectly. The attributes of the system and the tool go hand in hand. So anybody coming to the course is going to go home with a double whammy. They're not going to just understand where to reach out and touch them. They'll have a tool that they can know that hands or tool, they can reach out and touch them. So however they are. And if they do nothing else, if they carry it in their car and their seatbelt, like I tell my guys, they have a great rescue tool.
The knowledge in both your heads is just like unbelievable. The experience, what you guys know, it's not just this one thing. You just a broad spectrum of the martial arts in general. Definitely not something to miss.
Yeah, that's
all right. So
one thing I'd like to say to anybody who's watching this is the first time ever that we've had Evan and Bram teaching these world-renowned courses together, the same place, the same time, the same event, with the same goal, the same students. It's really kind of martial arts history in a crazy way. And so I would encourage anybody who's seeing this video or seen the flyer or knows Bram's work or knows Evan's work, or even knows Tom's work for that matter, because he doesn't like to talk about it, but he's well known in the martial arts world. You're not gonna be able to do this, commonly. This is a special event, and I think that for me personally, I'm looking forward just to being in the same room with all of you and training. Beyond just the fact that we're all friends, I just love the exchange of knowledge, and I think it's going to be a special weekend, and I really hope people take advantage of it, because that after the fact, it's going to be one of those kinds of things where people say, I wish I should have gone. I should have been there.
yeah.
That was special. I should have went when I had the chance.
Well, if God blesses us the right way, maybe it's, there's an old Jewish saying about God meant it to happen. I forgot what the Hebrew is, but I think it's going to be great. And like I said, I think it's going to be a great blessing for everyone, and that maybe Evan has stuck with me for many years.
Sounds great.
All right. So if you want to register for the event, you go to tacticsmartialarts.com, click on the events tab, boop, comes up, click on that. CRMiPT, what does it say? KTCP CRMiPT, I believe. I think it's the only event on there right now.
The only event we have listed right now.
Yeah, more coming. So you click on that and it takes you to register, and you're good to go. You got the free book, and you can go and get there's a code. They should put a code for the CRMiPT purchase,
I will
Bram
load
will
in.
be bringing, so you have to pay shipping.
I will load into the end of this video in the edit. All of the contact information, codes, whatever we have, will appear at the end of this.
Right. And I will
Yes.
have some crimps with me. I will have some extra compressors with me. And if anybody doesn't get them there, because the old guys will have the links, they'll be able to, for the rest of the month, at least for my crimp, go back and get all the stuff on the discount with the code from training.
Okay, great.
Very nice. All right. Well, thank you, everybody.
Really, thank you both very much.
Bram, nice seeing you.
Evan, it was a pleasure to get to meet you via video, so I can actually see you and talk to you. Thank you for everything you've done.
Thank you. It's going to be great. I think it's going to be enjoyable. And thank these guys for bringing us together.
Anyways, I look forward to seeing all of you very shortly, and thank you for this time together.
Good health and
thank you, gentlemen.
Healthy travels.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you
All
both.
right.
Thank you both. This is really special. Thank you very much.
Okay,
Thank you.
guys. Take
All
care.
right. Goodbye.